Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kelly. Welcome to my studio. Today we're talking about our first segment of the Everything is Rosy journal. And we're going to work with our cover today, pick our papers, talk about signatures, and embossing. So that's our project for today. To start with, I want to talk about our papers. These are the designs we have to choose from. There are 12 different designs, 6 on one side and 6 on the other. For a comfortable signature, you're probably not going to want to do more than 5 sheets, because we're also going to be adding in a couple of our cardstocks, and we'll be embossing a couple of them, and that's going to add bulk to our page. So we're going to stick to choosing 5 pages that you want to work with, and I've gone with, let me slide these out of the way. These are the 5 that I've chosen, kind of stuck with kind of a pinkish tone. Now keep in mind, there are lots of these papers to love, so these are the 5 that I've chosen, and then I've reserved these 2, slide these down here, these 2 are going to be my outside cover, and these 2 are going to be my inside cover. So I still get to work with a couple of designs that I really like and bring the pinks and blues together. So those are my covers. Now your cover pieces, you're going to leave 6 by 6. Okay? Your patterned pages and your cardstocks, you're going to cut them 6 by 5 because you want to have the cover can't be any bigger than 6 because your paper isn't any larger than 6. And you want your cover to extend out past your pages a little bit. I guess I need to run them this way. So once you picked your patterns and folded everything, you're going to have basically a book that is 3 by 5. So this is a simple, sweet little journal to tuck into your purse. Maybe make several of these and share them with the nursing home or something like that, a senior center. They would love these for tucking into their purse. So that's what we're doing today. So you're going to start with by choosing 5 papers from the collection. Pay attention to your orientation. Do you want your stripes to run this way, or do you want your stripes to run this way in your page? So when you fold your page, let me fold this one here since it's got a pattern, definitive pattern to it. That's what your page is going to look like. So do you want your stripes to run this way or this way? If you want them to run up and down, you're going to turn your paper and you're going to cut it to 5 inches long and leave your 6 inches wide. So you're going to do that with each of your 5 pages. And from there, it doesn't matter. Really, it's up to you as to how you choose to fold in or out, because all the pages are going to be visible at some point. Give them a good tight crease. You may even want to use your bone folder. I'm going to tuck this one in there. And then this one, I've got that one out, so I'm going to go with, I guess I really like the stripe and the flower together because I wound up using 2 of that one, and that's fine. You can pick these and choose them however you want. And then I'm going to go with this one. And I think I'm going to swap this one around so I can make it my center. Okay, so there I have my 5 pages. So we're going to set those aside for a minute, and we're going to talk about embossing. As I said, I want to use some cardstocks. I'm not sure if I'm going to use any of the plain ones or not. Remember, if you ordered the kit before this class started, you were going to get this embossing folder for free. I can't walk you over to my Big Shot and show you the embossing, but this is one of our deep impression dynamic textured folders. So when you run cardstock through it, you're going to want to give it a mist. Give your paper a light mist first, and that's going to give you your deep impressions on these. Now I cut my cardstock so that I had extra pieces to work with. Let me take my peach one here. I started by cutting it at the 6-inch mark. And then this one by 5 inches, because that's how long my pages need to be. And then I had some extras. And then this strip that we cut off, I'm going to cut it to 5 inches. Yeah. Let's stop and think a minute. And that way, by running through the embossing folders, I had this piece that I embossed. These I hadn't cut down to the 5-inch before I figured out my placement. So these are still 6 inches. But I run these through the embossing folder. The large ones I did run through twice because I realized that if I was going to fold this, I had a lot of real estate over here that I didn't really want. So I went back and ran it again and positioned it. Most of that 5-inch, that 6x5 will fit in the embossing folder, and that gave me just a little bit that wasn't embossed, but that's okay because I can use this. I can hide this when I put in a pocket or a tuck spot at the bottom of these pages, so that's okay. And then I did one full sheet. I just had to emboss that gold foil, and I've got a little bit of a crease here, and if I'd have paid attention, I'd have done it exactly in the middle. But I don't think I'm going to use this as a full page anyway. I'm probably going to wind up cutting this apart and using it as accents on the pages. So I was okay with that. Now let's talk about the cover. Remember I said that we've got it 6x5. This is the box that your kit came in. And remember I told you don't do anything with your box because we'd be using it. So I'm going to use my scissors first of all and cut the box apart. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just need to have a piece I can cut with or that I can fit onto my trimmer. Let's see, we can get the mister bottle out of the way. We won't need it. Okay, this bottom flap, I'm going to go ahead and cut it because I'm going to use it as my template when we get ready to stitch our pages together. And we'll get rid of that. So we need this one because we want some overhang over here so that we can fold our paper. When we put our paper on, we can fold it over. And so, in the same way, so we're going to cut this one 6. For our cover, we're going to cut it 6 by, what did I figure? 6 by 7, I believe. Thought I wrote it down, but it's not on my cheat sheet. Yeah, because we need it to be 3 inches this way and an overhang, 3.5. So 3.5 and 3.5 is 7. And then if we cut this one, so we want to cut this 6 by 7. And this is going to become our cover. So I'm going to square it up first, make sure I've got a good flat crease. And that gives me a good place to cut. So I want to go over here. I'm going to cut the 7 first, that way I make sure I've got it. So there's the 7. And there's the 6. Okay. Then we want to go ahead and score it at the 3.5. Because that'll help give us our roll without too much of a... Actually, score it at the... Let's see, half would be 3.5. Half is going to be 3.5. So we're going to score at the 3.25 and the 3 3/4. So we're going to score at the 3 3/4 and the 3 1/4. Let's see if I did that right. Now it's going to give us a little bit of a work there with our signature. It's going to let it roll a little bit without creasing. Okay. We also need to cut, let's see, our spine piece can be any size, any width. We just need to make sure that it's only 5 inches. So I'm just going to cut a piece of this that is 1.5 inches by 5. Okay, and then what I want to do, why did that not come out to, no, I need it to be 6. I'm sorry, 1.5 inches by 6. Okay. And then I'm going to score it at the 3/4 mark. That's going to show me where my center of my template is at. Okay, so we've got that scored. Boy, that didn't score level at all, did it? Okay, then I'm going to take my scissors, and I didn't bring a score tool, so I'm just going to take my scissors and burnish that down so I've got a good crease to follow. Okay, then you're going to take your pencil and your ruler, find your halfway point, which is going to be your 3-inch mark, and then you're going to want to come in about 1/4 inch from each end. So we're going to make a tick mark at the 5.5 and at the 1/2 inch mark. These are going to be your stitching holes. When we put this together, you will use the same stitching hole template for your pages. Actually, I think we're going to have to bring that in 1 inch. Let's do that. I forgot about the pages being. Let's try that again. Let's go in at the 3-inch and then come in at the 1-inch mark. And so 1, 3, and 5 will be our template holes for stitching. That will work out much better. That will work out much better. Okay. So let me go back through this again. You're going to pick out your 5 pieces of the designer series paper that you want to work with. Cut them off at the 5-inch mark, depending on how you want your pattern to run. So pay attention, because this is going to be your short, this is going to be the length of your book. Okay, and then we're going to stack those together. Now you'll notice there is a little bit of a burr hangover on these as you put them together. That's just natural, because they're butted into one another. When we're done, we'll go back and either trim those off, or we will camouflage them with some of our trims, so don't worry about those. And then I think, actually a 1/2 inch on this book is a little long. So instead of 6 inches, let's do it 5.5. I think I like that better. I really did have this all figured out this morning. Honest, I did. See, that way we've got just a little bit of a cover width on either side. That works. That works. We like that. Okay. So, cover. 5.25 by 7 by 5.5. That's our cover. Okay. Then you need 5 of your pages that are 6 by 5 to go in there. If you want any of your cardstock pages to go in there as well, I picked one from each of my my white, my blue, and the Flirty Flamingo, Melon Mambo. And I chose to use these as the ones that I am embossing. So I'm going to leave the white one plain. I'm probably going to emboss this one, and then I've got this one embossed. And I'm going to fold it this away. There we go. And then let's fold this one this away. And I really think, since I've got blue on the cover, I think I'm going to bypass on the blue sheet. And I'm going to go that away. That's what I want. Okay. So I'm going to wind up with 5 designer series papers, 1 Melon Mambo, 1 Whisper White, And then I've got these other colors. Okay, now, if you have the Stampin' Pierce mat, that's great. You're going to want to use it, and you're going to want your piercing tool. I had mine here. You're going to want your piercing tool. Now, I love this piercing tool on our new one because the point is wider. It's a little fatter, and it gives us a much better point of, it gives us a little bit bigger hole to stitch through. So you're going to, after you've folded your pages, you're going to want to open them up and lay them on your piercing mat. And then position your template right in the center. And then you're going to pierce and just get a good start on it with this just to mark your holes. Then we'll move the template out of the way and we'll come back and make our holes more predominant, just like this. Just so you get the hole all the way through. And if you want to go part of the way through and then flip it over and come back from the other side, you can do that too. Just be careful you don't pierce yourself. That wouldn't be fun. Okay. And then I'm going to come back in with this, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line up my holes. Actually, I think I'm going to use this one for the cover. That way I know where my holes are laying with my pages. I can center my page in there like that. Pierce my hole. Incidentally, my piercing mat is 2 pieces of craft foam glued together. It's what I already had in my office, in my studio. Okay, so now we're ready to sew this together, almost. We need to lay these aside and do our cover. Now for our cover, where'd my pieces go? Here's what I'm going to use on my cover. This obviously is not going to cover all the way across, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right up against that hole with one seat and right up against the hole with the other seat. And then I will come back and cover this after I've stitched with my blue ribbon. So before we do that, we're going to use, let me get rid of some pages off of my work table here. We're going to use our tear and tape, our score tape, and we're going to run a strip parallel with that first hole. Like that. Okay. And I'm going to burnish that down with my scissors because I didn't bring my score tool. Okay. And then we're going to take, this is about 24 inches in length of the Melon Mambo ruched ribbon. And I want to try and get this as close to center as I can, so that's where that needs to go, right over the score tape. Now the score tape doesn't have to be a permanent situation because we're going to come back in with glue, or with the score tape, and glue these down. So now we have that in place. Let's go ahead and run the score tape this way. Oops. As soon as it turns loose of me, right up against the edge of that, so that we've got good covering on that score tape. And this will help keep that ribbon in place when we go around the outside. Now, I know what you're thinking. How are we going to wrap this around the front? Well, we're not going to wrap the front and back edge because I wanted to secure my tie underneath the cover. So we're just going to wrap the paper around the outside, around the ends, top and bottom, not on the front edges. Okay? Now before I run the tape this way, I'm going to go this way and push those in. And I think I want to run one more in the center here. just to be sure. Now, if you wanted to use the all-purpose liquid glue, you could do that. Or your adhesive of choice. I do not recommend the snail for this, because you want something a little sturdier than that for this. So I'm gonna, where's my pick tool? I buried it here somewhere. There it is. Get a hold of this. Now I would recommend doing only half of this at a time. So I've got that first half pulled. And now I can lay this right up against there, making sure that I leave room top and bottom to fold over. And now we're going to go this way. This way. Guess it's really not going to match up however I decide to put it, so we're going to go that way. Okay. Okay, now we're going to take our scissors, and I could have trimmed this ahead of time had I thought about it. Just don't cut your ribbon. If you hold your scissors kind of at a 45-degree angle, you can get up closer to that without okay, there we go. Hold your scissors at a 45-degree angle, you get a better cut up against your edge than if you just try to cut straight across. So kind of get it at an angle like that. And you're less likely to cut your ribbon if you hold them at a slight angle. Okay. Now I didn't worry about running score tape across the top and the bottom because I'm going to fold it over anyway. And it's going to secure that. So let's just go ahead and run the score tape this way. And this way. Okay. And again, just do one side at a time. That way you don't have adhesive in your way sticking out for you to have a problem with. And we're just going to run that over. Just like that. Stick that down. Now there is some adhesive showing. This is wider than our tape. This isn't as wide as our tape. But we're going to put a liner on that anyway. So that's okay. We're okay with that. Okay. My ruler vanished. Here we go. Okay, so on my inside, I want to go right up to that edge, and this time I am going to go ahead and measure this. So I want to cut my paper 7 inches by 5. And let's see, I want to come in a little bit, 5 1/4. So these 2 pages, I'm going to cut. I can't cut them 6. I got to cut them 4 inches. Three and a half inches. 3 1/2 inches by 5 1/4. And again, if you're doing something, I want the leaf up, but if I was doing this, I'd have to determine which direction I wanted my stripe first, because this is the direction that I'm going to cut at the 5 1/2. 5 1/4. 5 1/4. I knew I should have wrote it down. 5 1/4. So we're going to cut this one at 5 1/4. Hang on to your pieces because we can use those for page embellishments. And let's see, I went this way, 5 1/4. And I need these 3 1/4. Yeah. Don't forget which direction you're going and chop them off the wrong direction. Which I think I just did. Nope. There are days I surprise myself. Okay. Back to our scoring tape. We're going to make sure we get right up against that edge to seal that. On that edge there. And we're going to do the same thing as we get up here near the center. Now I want to cover this center if I can, so I'm going to go right up to it because when we stitch it, the scoring tape will help reinforce your stitching. And we'll go ahead and put this one down. I got to turn it this way. Get my butt behind me, as my stepmommy used to say. Isn't that funny, the sayings we grew up with and how they automatically pop back into our head when we're doing something? Okay. I do love that score tape. It is sticky, sticky stuff. And that's what you want if you want your project to last. You want something that's really going to hold all these layers down. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim these off a little bit. They're a little bit too close for me. I didn't get... There we go. I think those will work. Okay. I want another one on this side of that. Another one on there. Because I didn't quite get the holes on that first one, and I want to make sure that those holes are reinforced. Okay, so let's get our first one off here. Again, do one side at a time. This one I got to come back at it. Whoops, probably should have went the other direction first. Oh well. It'll work. Okay, then I'm going to turn this and I'm going to lay this right up against the edge. Being as centered as I can. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. And since I've had to go back and refigure these measurements, don't worry about trying to follow them. I will have them on the blog with this video. And it will probably be up. I'm going to have to get this uploaded, so it'll probably be, the dimensions will probably be up tomorrow morning. Now, yes, there is a gap there, and that's fine. I think to ensure that nothing, I think I want to run a little piece of this gold foil in the center of that. Did I have any of that? Oh, this one will work. This will work. And I just want it just a little bit, so let's go ahead and do it just a ½ inch. Just a ½ inch should do it. And what was that book? By 5 1/2. 5 1/4. 5 1/4. Okay. And then this is going to go right there in the center. And that'll give me some stability for my stitching. Now, you don't want to do your rubbing too much on this, on the foil. Flip it over and burnish from the back side, because this foil will scratch really easily. Okay, so we have a cover. Now let's stitch our pages together. These are what we call signatures, and if you're uncomfortable about the edge, you can always take and just kind of trim those off. You may have to do them a layer at a time. Because there is quite a bit of bulk there, so you may have to come in and do just half. And then flip them over and do the other half. Just like that. Okay. Now remember I told you could use embossing thread, you could use embroidery thread. Just about anything will work. I like to use the waxed unflavored dental floss for things most of the time because it's a good sturdy, and because it's waxed, it lets you slide through there really easy. So I'm going to undo that. I can get it off my sticky fingers. You're going to want to start with a length of thread approximately 2 to 2.5 times your length. So we have 5.5 inches here, so I'm probably going to stretch this out to a 12-inch piece, and that's going to give me plenty to work with. And you'll notice I've got a good wide eye on that needle, and that's fine because you want something that's going to hold your, and you're not going to worry about doubling it. Okay, now you see what I did? Let's start with stitching our signature together. If you lay this in, I recommend a couple of paper clips. I didn't bring any over to the table with me, so I'm going to try and wing this, but I recommend a couple of binder clips. Let me use, I've got one handy here I can put to use. But if you've got a couple of binder clips you can put in there to help hold that in place, you're going to go down through your center. And don't pull it all the way. You want to make sure you leave a tail. And then this is the one that's going to be tricky because I covered up my hole. Oh. Come back up through your hole. Oops, and I just about pulled too far. And then I'm going to go all the way down to my next hole. And come out and go back in through your center hole again. When you tie this, make sure you've got your, let me put a piece of cardstock under here so you can see. You can see you've got your string there in the middle. You want to make sure that you've got one of your tails on either side of your thread. Let me get this out of here. I don't want to lose that needle. That is my absolute favorite needle for bookbinding. So that you've got one on either side. So when we tie this up, it helps secure that center thread, even though it's got a lot of real estate there between it going back and forth. And then I just tie it in a double knot. And I'm not going to clip it down all the way because what I will probably do is I will come back in with a little bit of Crystal Effects or a clear drying glue and put it right on that knot. And once that's dry, then I will clip this down tighter, but I want to make sure that knot's not going anywhere. And that's the beginning. Now, did y'all notice what I did? I didn't put my embossed pieces in there. I did that one, but I was going to include that pretty gold one. So I'll have to either take this apart and put that gold one in, or just use it for embellishment. Now, you could do 2 of these signatures. You're just going to want to make sure that you put in 2 rows of holes on your cover. But there's room in that binding there that we could have put a second one in there. There's plenty of room. So, and I may go back and put a second one in there. We'll see. But that's an option that you have. This is your journal. I want you to take what I show you and make it your own. Next week, we are going to play with doing our embellishments on our pages, creating pockets, tucks, and tags. And then in week 3, we're going to go back in and do the embellishments with the mirrored dots, some stamping, and the rose gold glimmer mist. So that is ours for today. Remember, I will have these measurements on the blog post, so you can go in and follow. And I will see you next Friday with part 2. Thanks for watching. click the like button. Please leave me any comments, any questions that you have about what we did today. Also, I would appreciate subscriptions and sharing this channel with your friends, because the more I have, as soon as I get a million, I'd love to have a million, but as soon as I get 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be able to start doing lives. We're going to come back and we will do this next week. I think we'll do that next week to cover up this here. So that is us for this week. Thanks for watching. Creative blessings and have fun this weekend. Be safe.